Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking about heating and lighting for your Leopard Gecko. Let's get straight into it. So first off, looking at my Leopard Gecko's enclosure, you may notice that over this side it's sort of dark and this side it's lighter. Now this is part of a technique or method, whatever you want to call it, called the light and shade method, which is where you have one side of the tank in high light and high heat, and then there's a heat and light gradient to the other end. This is what I've got going on this enclosure. Up here you'll see I've got my heating and lighting, and over here I've got absolutely nothing. So what this does is it sort of simulates what it's going to be like in the wild. In the wild, animals are going to bask and lay out in the light, and it's also going to be hot, because heat and light in the wild all comes from the sun. So where it's hot, it's going to be light, and this is what you've got to try and simulate in the enclosure so that the creature, well, Leopard Gecko in this circumstance, can thermoregulate properly. The light that I have on this enclosure is a 7% D3 Arcadia compact fluorescent lamp. I would recommend linear bulbs over compact bulbs, but you can't really get them that are short enough. Arcadia do a mini UVB kit, but it's not powerful enough to project the light through a mesh top. So that's why I use this. The compact in this canopy up here is actually lying horizontally like that. So there is a sort of decent angle of light. And as you can see, a lot of the tank is lit. Whether it's lit with UVB, I can't tell because we can't see it. But either way, it does produce a good light gradient. This is the bulb here, as you can see, like I say, horizontal, so you do get a good angle of light coming from it. It's vitally important that you have a reflector on it. That's what the sort of square shape is, that's a bit of the metal reflector. This ensures that all the light is projected downwards and not just going everywhere. The reason I've got a 7% bulb on this enclosure is that it's penetrating through a mesh top. Now usually for an enclosure of roughly 30 centimetres tall, for a Leopard Gecko you want to use a 2% output UVB bulb. This is 7%, and that just means that the amount of light that gets through the mesh, that'll be about 3.5% UVB, or possibly slightly less. So that just makes sure that you are getting enough, because if I just put a 2% fluorescent on this, then mesh actually filters out about 50% of UVB, so that would mean only about 1% of UVB would be in the light coming through, which is not high enough. So do make sure that if you've got a mesh top, you get the bulb that is the next rating up from the one that you're thinking of getting. This video is about heating for your Leopard Gecko as well, and the heating that I would always recommend is a ceramic heat emitter. The sort of little coiled white bulbs that don't give off any light. I have one inside this dome. It's suspended just above the mesh, as you can see by this bracket. It's a Komodo bracket, it works quite well, not too expensive either. But what you want is for this to be producing a hot spot of about 30 degrees on a basking site. I have this rock as my basking site, and yes, my Leopard Gecko, who you can just about see there, does actually bask. And you want that to be at about 30 degrees. So you should control this with a pulse proportional thermostat. This right here is the pulse proportional thermostat. It's set to 30 degrees, and as you can see, it's turning on and off the heat gently, just to make sure that it stays at 30 degrees in the hotspot. These are essential for ceramics because they prolong the life, and they also reduce the risk of you burning anything or melting your mesh. So they are an essential bit of kit. Heating and lighting for Leopard Geckos is very basic. You just need to make sure you have a 30 degree hotspot running down to about room temperature at the other end of the enclosure, so that you've got a nice heat gradient, and matching that should be a light gradient with UVB. A 2% UVB will do for most cases, but if it's going through mesh, you want the next rating up, which is either 5 or 6 or 7%, depending on the manufacturer. I would always recommend Arcadia, but there are others. Like, I do think that Zoom Edge lamps aren't too bad, although there are some brands I'd stay away from, like knockoff ones. If it's not a well-known brand, just stay clear of it. Either way, it is very simple, and I hope that if you're planning on getting a Leopard Gecko, or you just want to review your care for your Leopard Gecko, then this video helps. So, I hope you did enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.